Welcome to the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast.
Hello everyone, this is Jefferson Scott with What's Happening Birmingham. Today I got the honor and pleasure, got another one of many candidates that is running in the May 24th, 2022 Democratic primary. Today I have Felicia Rucker-Sumerlin. She is running for Jefferson County Sheriff. How you doing today, Felicia?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Great. So glad to finally have you on the podcast. You're the only female that's running.
Only female candidate that's on the ballot, yes.
It's the only female that's running for Jefferson County Sheriff. So this is very special to have you on. We're going to talk about the historical significance in a few moments. But let me first off, the first question is, tell the viewers why you're running for sheriff.
The reason I'm running for sheriff is, I am the absolute most qualified candidate for the job. I retired last year. I could have actually stayed at home and just enjoyed my retirement. But our homicide rate in Jefferson County right now is so high. And I've been through that before. I have lost a son to violence. My son was a military veteran. He spent 10 years in the Army. He came back home. He did 3 tours, 2 in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. Came back home and was killed over a girl.
Oh, wow.
And so navigating the criminal justice system was extremely difficult for me. Even being a veteran law enforcement officer was difficult. I was angry. I was hurt. Nobody at that time could do anything to make me happy. Nobody, not the DA's office, not the court system, not the investigator, no one could, because I lost my child. And so when you take me, who's worked on the other side of the spectrum, that I have been an investigator in homicides, and now I am the person who's a relative of the people that's been investigated. It's different. So I've been there where I've told families it's gonna be okay. This is just a normal process that we have to go through. This is how the court system works. And when it was my turn, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear that. So what I want to do is create a task force, and that's why I'm running, to create a task force to help these families get through this. I'm running because I have spent my entire career prepping and preparing for a day such as this. I've made it my business to work through the ranks and work different assignments so that when it was time, I'm more than prepared. Okay, so let's talk about this historical significance. Okay. Tell the viewers, because I've done a little research on it, but I want you to tell them, those that don't know. Yeah. So I am the first African-American female captain in the Sheriff's Office history. I was promoted in 2016 to captain. I received an award from the NAACP for it. In 2020, I was promoted to deputy chief. That is the highest ranking civil service position in the Sheriff's Office. I was the only female that has ever attained that position. So in 200-year history, no other female has ever been a deputy chief. Okay. So I was the first. I received an award from Stillman College for it. I received an award from Noble. I received recognition, from Noble. I received an award from Birmingham First. There were several entities that came out and recognized me for that. Now, fast forward to now, I am the first female in Jefferson County to qualify to run for sheriff. I am the first African-American female in the state to qualify to run for sheriff. So there are some significant events for me, I guess I would say I'm a female at first.
Oh, okay. So let's back up for a moment. So why did you choose a career in law enforcement?
Well, I actually was just trying to get a job. I was working in the food industry. I was a waitress. Back in the 80s, I was a single parent, had 2 kids, and my waitress job was a pretty good job. I was enjoying those tips. But at some point, I had to have some benefits for my children because I was a single parent. And so one day I got off work. I was working up at the Kettle Restaurant, which is on 78, right by the interstate. I got off work, went downtown to the personnel board, and I actually put in for everything that was open on the board. And the sheriff's office is actually the one that called me. So that's how I got it. It wasn't that I wanted to be the police, but it was actually the best career choice for me, and it worked out in the long run for me.
Okay, well let's connect the dots. Because one thing I always like doing podcast reviews. Everybody want to know where you grew up, where you went to high school, where you went to college, who's your cousins,
I know, right?
Where you go to church. So tell the viewers that.
So I grew up in Docena. I actually grew up between Docena and Graysville.
Okay.
My mom was in the military. She joined the military to provide for us. She had divorced, and so she had to do what she had to do. She left us here with my grandmother, her mom. So I kind of fluctuated between my mom's mom and my dad's mom in Graysville. I went to Mount High School, graduated from Mount High School in '84. And then I started the sheriff's office after, a couple of little jobs here and there. And 1990, I started sheriff's office in 1990. Then I started my degree program, and I went to Columbia Southern University. That's where I got my bachelor's degree from. My church is True Vine Church and Ministries, which is in Woodlawn. My pastor's Pastor Gwendolyn Bryant. But I've pretty much been a staple around in this area. I never really left this side of town.
So let's get into the meat and potatoes. You say you want to base your campaign was about. So what's your plan for reducing gun violence in Jefferson County if you're elected?
Okay. So one of the classes that I went to in the early 2000s, it was called Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, which is CEPTED.
Okay.
And so what they teach you in that, and then of course I've applied it over the years and see it actually is true. What they teach you in that is that our environment and how we design our environment is a direct reflection of the crime that happens in our neighborhood. So, and if you think about this, when you are when crimes happen at a gas station, typically the most well-lit gas stations don't have problems with criminal activity. But the ones that are poorly lit do have those problems. So, and it's about cutting back the brush in our neighborhood, cleaning up the trash in our neighborhood, fixing things, painting, bright colors. And I know that it seems strange.
Right, infrastructure.
Right. It seems strange that will have a direct reflection on crime, but it does. And if you think about our school systems, our children learn better in a nicer school, a nicer looking school. If the school is clean, anything, same thing at home. If your house is in disarray, you tend to be in disarray up here as well in your mind. So if we organize our things, if we get our stuff together, if we come in and clean up our neighborhoods, then the criminal will think twice about doing criminal activities in our neighborhood. We could have a line, I would just say, right here is Wildland, right across the line is a more affluent neighborhood, just one street over. All the criminal activity will stay right here where they're not cleaning up at. It's just an imaginary line. There's nothing that prevents that criminal from crossing over. But the way you treat your neighborhood prevents them from crossing over.
Keep going.
And so that's one of the things I would like to do. Go out, talk to go to these neighborhood watch meetings, go to these community meetings, and talk to them about this stuff, and get with our local leaders, our city council members and our county commissioners, and formulate a plan to kind of clean up our neighborhoods. We love privacy fences, and because we like to sit behind our privacy fence and keep what's going on in our house, the criminal also likes privacy fence. Because when you're at work, he's at work, and he's not worried about anybody seeing him behind your privacy fence. He can take his time. There's no need to hurry. So it's little things that we can do to help bring down the crime. Getting with our children. Not just, we have to educate them, that's the first thing. But we also have to teach them how to get along with each other, and I have a grandson who's a prime example. When you tell him you don't have to say everything that comes to your mind, you don't have to argue with everybody, you don't have to fight, you don't have to do these things. A lot of our kids now think that, well, you know what, he pumped me up. And I heard him in the jail. I asked him, why are you in here? Well, I killed a guy. Well, what you kill him for? He disrespected me. Really? Is that what we're doing now? So we have to start some programs in the summertime for our children. we have to get with our school systems, our school board members and our superintendents and our principals and counselors, and come up with a program that'll carry these kids through the summer. What happens when the kid that's always in trouble wants to play baseball, football, softball, basketball during the school year? He can't, because he's always into something. If his grades are not up to par, he can't participate. If his conduct is not up to par, he can't participate. How about outside of school, we give those kids something to do for those very kids that can't participate because of their behavior or their grades? I think that if we start rewarding them, start patting them on the back and saying, good job, some of that behavior will go away. But it's up to us to come up with a solution, the adults. That's what we're here for. And so we're going to put the deputies back in the neighborhoods, talking to the citizens, talking to the children. What I found when I was on patrol is that if I build a relationship with the people in the community, they tend to tell you what's going on. They're calling you, you know. And I see a lot of deputies say, well, I'm not giving them my phone number. Why wouldn't you give them your phone number? Why wouldn't you want Miss Johnson to call you before somebody gets killed? If she can call you and say, hey, Deputy Rucker, you know, these two boys on my street, they've been arguing. I heard one talking about going home to get a gun and shooting. You might want to come on out here. You might want to find out what's going on. You might want to send somebody out here. I'd love for them to have my phone number, so they can tell me what's going on, so I can fix it before it becomes a problem. So we have to get back to community policing. That's one of the ways to do it. What I see now is our officers, and not just county sheriffs, they ride around with their windows rolled up, on their cell phone. They can't hear or see anything. We kept our windows down. Summer, winter, spring, or fall, we roll with our windows down. Summertime, we just turn the air up. Wintertime, we just turn the heat up. But you have to hear what's going on in your neighborhood.
Okay, with that being said, let me ask you this, because I want you to go back and say something about deputies. And, you know, in this challenging times we live in right now, it's so hard to get people to choose a career in law enforcement, specifically be police officer, deputy. What would be your plans if you're elected to recruit and retain officers for Jefferson County Police Department?
So one of the reasons that our deputies are leaving the sheriff's office right now, and it's because of what they perceive as to be unfair treatment. You know, we have a progressive discipline is what we have at the sheriff's office. And so that means, you know, you do something one time, you know, you get slapped on the hand, a written reprimand, performance counseling, so forth and so on, until it gets to suspension or termination. But what's going on right now with our deputies is that we're starting out at suspensions and terminations. And so the deputies, they're jumping ship. And they're not just getting out of law enforcement, they're leaving the sheriff's office and they're going to other agencies. So what I would do is because as fast as we're hiring them, they're leaving. And so you never catch up that way. So what I would do is I would give the sergeants back control of their deputies and let them do the discipline of their deputies. I would give them, the only thing that the internal affairs would work on are those things that would be, that deputy would go to jail or something that would potentially make the news, you know, something really significant. But as far as just ordinary everyday discipline, you know, he was late for work, or he cursed while he was at work, or he had a wreck, that stuff will be handled by their immediate supervisors up to the deputy chief, but not past the deputy chief, like I said, unless it's something significant that will make the news. I would have internal affairs focus primarily on hiring. Because, you know, the internal affairs division is not a large division. And so when you're handling disciplinaries of 500 people and hiring, it can get overwhelming. And so I would remove that disciplinary process from them and let them focus solely on hiring and retaining people. We have to go out to colleges and recruit. We have to go catch those guys that's just getting out the military to recruit. We have to go, heck, to the neighborhood, to the parks, because you have some people that just never think about applying to be a police officer. But if we go out and talk to them and send mentors into the neighborhood to talk to them, maybe we can change their mind. You know, let them see what it's like for us. Get them into the Explorer program so they can come out and they can ride with us and see what it is that we do on a day-to-day basis. Because I think that when you're on the outside looking in, you have one understanding of what police do. And a lot of times it's just not a good understanding of what we do. So, but I think if we open that Explorer program back up and get these kids back involved with us, that they too will be happy where they start.
Okay, you said earlier about community policing. And that's a term I hear a lot. We hear that a lot in the media. What does that term mean to you? And I know we kind of spoke an earlier question, but can you tell the viewers what your vision would be community policing if you're elected?
Okay, so what happened when I was on patrol as a lieutenant, and I think it was 2008 is when I was a lieutenant, to 2016, I had a sergeant that was really good with people. And so what we did with him, because we had so many complaints coming in, and it was mostly from our elderly population, we made him the liaison between the sheriff's office and the community. And so those complaints were routed to him. And what he did, he went into the community and he met with these people, sat down with them, talked to them, explained to them how things actually work, and took their concerns, addressed their concerns, and fixed their concerns, came up with a solution for them. So what I would do is I would go back to that, because we don't have that anymore. And so what this particular sergeant was doing, he was going to the neighborhoods, helping them to create a neighborhood watch program, and attending those meetings, and going to their community civic league meetings, and
neighborhood meetings.
Right, the neighborhood meetings, absolutely, and helping them to have a clear understanding of what resources are available to them, and then of course kind of explain to them our process. When they may see that Junior went to jail this morning, but he's back out at noon, and they don't understand that he broke into somebody's house. Why is he back out now? Well, in community policing, when we put an officer in the neighborhood, when we give you that liaison between the sheriff's office and us, then they give you the understanding that you need to have when it comes to the processes that are in place. Community policing also involves our deputies that's assigned to the neighborhoods, getting to know the people in the neighborhood. And we should not swap deputies out unless it's that person's off day. But 5 days a week, that should be somebody's beat. The people become comfortable with him. He becomes relaxed with them. They communicate more. They'll tell him more what's going on than they would if we swap deputies out all the time. The children, I want to get with Dr. Gonsolin and the principals at these high schools and start programs for our children in the summertime. That's another part of community policing. So that's what I want to get back to, rolling down our windows, getting out, talking to our citizens, getting to know them, drinking some tea with them, sipping some coffee with them, just letting them understand that we're human. We wear a uniform and a badge, but we're no different than them. And that we're actually here to make your neighborhood a safer place.
So Jefferson County is the largest police department in Jefferson County. However, there's other local city police departments. If you're elected, how would you work with the other ones? I don't want to say no names, but how would you work with all the ones they need help? Can they depend on you all to have their back?
Absolutely, that's our job.
Okay.
So what happens, the sheriff's office is the chief law enforcement officer, the sheriff rather, is the chief law enforcement officer in Jefferson County. He has jurisdiction, or she has jurisdiction, in absolutely every city and town in Jefferson County. Do we often exercise that jurisdiction? No, because most places have their own police departments. But Birmingham, I'm going to use them as an example, has an unusually high number of homicides right now. I would create a violent crimes investigative task force that would work with Birmingham, work with Hoover, Vestavia, Gardendale, and Fultondale.
Okay.
To investigate these crimes, because what we think is that, that's Birmingham's problem. Well, it's all of our problems. Because just because John Q. Citizen didn't kill someone in your neighborhood does not mean that he won't be robbing someone in your neighborhood, does not mean that he won't be breaking in your house in your neighborhood, does not mean that he won't be stealing in your neighborhood. And all too often, because we don't share information, it's extremely difficult for us to solve crimes. I could have a picture of my suspect and have no idea who he is or she is and where they're from. And I'm looking for them on a homicide. But because Mountain Brook don't have problems with homicides, I won't talk to anybody in Mountain Brook about it.
Okay.
But if we're working together, there's a possibility Mount Brook knows them. There's a possibility that they've arrested him for a theft. There's a possibility that they've arrested him for a DUI. So when we talk to each other, share information, we tend to make everybody's neighborhood a safer place. I worked on a task force when I was in ID theft. It was called the Northern District Task Force, and there were agencies from Jefferson City, even to Shelby County, Tuscaloosa County. We all work together, and what we do, we show up at our meetings, and we have our investigations, and we compare notes. And we all found out, because of that, every one of us had identity theft cases that was going on in our towns or cities. Same suspect.
Oh, wow.
Same guy. But had we not been meeting, had we not formed that task force, we never would have solved that crime. Never would have. And so task forces are important. They're important. They keep everybody involved. The deputies on the streets, they're already working with each other.
Okay.
They know the officers in Birmingham. They know the officers in Vesper that's right next to that beat. They know the state troopers, because they all kind of get together every now and then and work on some things together. But once it gets to an investigative level, is where the breakdown is. So once it gets to the detectives, that's where we have the breakdown. And that's where we have to get us back on the same page. So the chiefs, I would call all of the chiefs and meet with them and run this by them and see what we can do as a unit to make Jefferson County a safer place to live.
You know, one thing I'm glad that you started talking about your vision, you know, how you work, but I'm just thinking, like, if the viewers are watching this, one thing we hear of is staffing issues.
Right.
Would you, I don't want to pin you, tend to think, you like say, no campaign promise, something like that.
Right.
But would you be open to assisting in staffing for a couple of these municipalities that they may not have these adequate officer shortages?
Right. Well, so yes, because the Jefferson County Jefferson County is responsible for all of Jefferson County.
Okay.
So we can't say we're not going to help Fairfield. We can't say we're not going to help Brighton or Warrior. We can't say we're not going to help those areas, because we have to find a way to help them.
Okay.
Can I strip Oak Grove to the bare bones to help another agency? No.
All right.
I can't do that, because it's not fair to them either.
Okay.
And what people tend to think, well, Oak Grove is a low crime area. It is a low crime area because they've had adequate coverage.
Okay.
But at the same time, when something goes wrong in Oak Grove, and from where we are now to Oak Grove is a 20-minute drive. So if you're down there as an officer getting your butt kicked and your hip is 20 minutes away, that's a long fight. If you're down there and as a citizen and you have a domestic situation, and no officer goes into a domestic violence call alone, they have to wait on backup. So if John Q. deputy has to wait 20 minutes for a deputy to get to him before he even starts going to your house, that's a problem. That's a life and death thing. So yes, I will help other cities that need help, but not to the detriment of. We have to find a way to balance it all out. It has to be equitable distribution of our resources, and so it has to be something that is fair for all involved.
Okay, so other than like gun violence, what other biggest challenge you feel that the Jefferson County Sheriff Department face in the next 4 years, whoever gets elected this next time?
It's going to be staffing, because our numbers are at an all-time low right now. We have deputies that are quitting every week, and the numbers between January of 19 and December of 2020, 196 officers either were fired, quit, or resigned, or retired. So that's a lot of people when you have a staff of 500. So one of the challenges is to get the numbers back. But what most people don't know is that the sheriff's primary responsibility is to the courts and to the jail, not actually to the patrol, not to provide criminal investigators, not to provide evidence technicians, not to provide a street crimes unit, but it's to the jail and patrol. And so what happens is you have 900 people in jail, inmates in jail. When we're short-staffed, we can't let them go because we're short-staffed. We can not serve a beat because we're short-staffed, but somebody has to man that jail. And so if you got 3 floors, which is the 7th, 8th, and 9th floor, of violent inmates, what do you do with them when you're short-staffed? You know, we can talk the courts into releasing some of these people that in jail on technical violations for tickets or just maybe failing the drug test. And the courts have always helped us out with stuff like that. But when you get to the violent inmates, that's when you have a problem. And you have to man them. You know, they have to, there's a schedule for them. They have to go to court. They have to get their meds at a certain time. The meals are served at a certain time. Visitations at a certain time. So there's a schedule. There's a schedule. And what happens when you don't follow that schedule, they become used to that schedule. When you don't follow that schedule, you can maybe get away with it for a day or two, but after that, then they start getting upset. And so there are times where we've had to lock them down because we were short-staffed. And I mean, how many days do you think you can sit in a room that's maybe 8 by 8, and there's no TV in that room, there's no phone in that room, it's just a toilet in your bed, and that's it. So we have to find a way to man those things that must be manned and still give the citizens out here what they need.
So do we need more facilities?
No, we don't need more facilities. The more facilities you have, the more people that's going to take to man those facilities.
Okay.
So we have 9 floors.
All right.
Yeah. So on those floors, it takes a control room operator and a couple of deputies on, and you really want to have 2 or 3 deputies on the violent floors. Well, if you get more facilities, all you're going to do is spread out your inmates, but you still got to have pretty much the same number of deputies to watch those inmates. So you don't really want to get more facilities. That requires more manpower.
All right, so all the leadership, you know, early in the interview, we talked about all the roles you've been. How do you feel these roles have prepared you the most for this moment?
So what I've had the pleasure of doing over, my first promotion to sergeant was in 2004. So what I've had the pleasure of doing was learning how to supervise.
All right.
There are so many different personalities when you're dealing with, in any division, any given division, I would have in the jail over 100 people to supervise. Before I retired, I had over 200 people between both jails. So the number of personalities is overwhelming.
All right.
The number of issues that you will have is overwhelming, from inmates dying to deputies getting in some type of trouble, to deputies having mental health issues maybe, to family problems, to deputies not coming to work, to having, dealing with the families of the inmates that's in the jail, dealing with the issues with internal affairs. There was so much going on, but working in the jail, working on patrol, working criminal division, I kind of understand a little bit of everything that goes on. Because in all of those divisions, I've had to deal with the budget. And of all of those divisions, I've had to deal with personalities in all those divisions. I've had to go out and speak to people outside of the jail, outside of patrol. So I've been to other engagements. I've had to deal with other agencies, work with them no matter how tense the situation was. We still had to find a way to work things through. So just everything that I've gone through since I've been at the sheriff's office has prepared me for this role.
Well, let me ask you this question, because this question I've been asking all the candidates, especially ones running for judges, but I think this question kind of fits in with you, since you're going to be stepping in a big leadership position, because you're going to be making a lot of decisions. What is the hardest decision you've ever made in your life? What are those decisions?
To make a recommendation that someone is terminated.
Oh, wow.
That's the hardest decision in the world. Because no matter what, you always want to give them another chance.
Okay.
But at some point, you have to do what's best for the department.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you an easy question before I give you the last selling question. I know you don't really have time to do a lot of hobbies since you're out on the campaign trail. What's some things you like to do in your free time?
Actually, I like to buy older houses and restore them. That's something my daughter and I does. And we bought and that's a part of giving back to our community as well. So we bought a house in Wylam, and most people might know about it. It's the old White House in front of Wylam Elementary School.
Oh, okay.
The house is 123 years old.
Oh, wow.
So we bought it about 3 years ago and rehabbed it and sold it. And that was the most fun
Okay.
because of the house's history.
Okay.
And so we were able to Google things about that house. There was a historian that stopped by, and while we were working on the house, he told us about the house. And so that's just, I watch a lot of HGTV.
Okay.
So getting into rehabbing is fun.
Yeah, you guys, give me a picture of that one.
Yeah, it's online.
Send me the address, look it up. So all right, so last question. I like to call this one the final question, kind of closing pitch to the voters. Like we mentioned earlier in the interview, you have broken a lot of glass ceilings. And especially if you make it past the May 24th election, runoff election, then of course the general election, you'll be the first of many. So why should voters choose you? And I always say, Stanley can make the closing pitch to be the next sheriff for Jefferson County in the next 4 years.
So I am that candidate that has been where most of you all have been. I have been a single parent. I've raised my kids to be productive citizens. I have been the grandmother that has had to step in and raise grandkids when things were just not going right in the home. I have been a mother that has lost my child to violence and had to deal with the criminal justice system, as frustrating as that may be. I know what you need. I know what it takes. I've been trained in crime prevention and it's through environmental design. I'm invested in my neighborhoods, trying to change the environment. I'm that person. I have worked my entire career towards this moment. I have taken every test, been promoted through the ranks. I was the highest ranking civil service employee, female, with the sheriff's office. I was the first one to attain the rank of deputy chief. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, so I'm not just someone that wants to be your sheriff. I am that qualified someone that wants to be your sheriff. I am qualified because I walked in your shoes, and I'm qualified because I've done what I need to do on the other side of the spectrum to be your sheriff. Hands down, there is no other candidate on the ballot for sheriff that is more qualified than me. If you stack my resume up against theirs, there's no comparison. I am that person for your sheriff. That's why I want to be your sheriff, because I'm qualified. Not because I'm a woman, not because I'm black, but because I am hands down the most qualified candidate for the ballot. I am the qualified candidate for the ballot.
All right, and before we end the interview, I want to thank you for the years of service that you did for the county, and a special thanks for your son for the service he did in the military. And so sorry to to lose him, because like you said, to be on both sides of the coin. Like your police officer investigating crime, and then when you're the family, the victim of the crime is a whole different thing. How can people find out more about your campaign? So
I have a webpage, and it's FeliciaForSheriff.org, and that's FeliciaForSheriff.org. Also, I have a Facebook page, and that's Felicia Rucker-Sumerlin for Jefferson County Sheriff. So I'd encourage you to follow that page. My campaign kickoff speech is on that page. And we do Talk Back Tuesdays, every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30. That's also on that page. And I have a email address that you can reach me that way. It's timeforchange@FeliciaForSheriff.com, and the 4 in Time for Change and Felicia for Sheriff is the word for FOR. So if you reach out to me, I'll respond to you. If you need signs, literature, we have that too. All right, well, thank you for coming on today. Don't forget, Tuesday, May 24th, 2022, everybody come out, get out to the polls. Maybe I think it's like a week before Memorial Day. Yeah. A week before Memorial Day. So before y'all think about the barbecue and going out to the beach, just drove the numbers to get to the polls. Thank you all again for watching this video. Please check out what'shappeningbirmingham.com for more interviews, more videos, and also don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and Apple Podcasts for the audio version. Thank y'all again. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast. Please check out our website, app, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest videos today.